speaking live to us from Baghdad. In the studio with me is Charlie Wolfe, American commentator and broadcaster. In Oxford is George Galloway, Respect MP for Bradford West. Charlie, do you think that it would be okay for the UK to join in with the USA and send planes and weapons and bombs and everything else?
Well, first off, let me wish you and George a happy Jewish New Year before I start.
Thank
without
you.
A sense of irony. But also, yes, I think Lisa actually covered it very well. Let's separate the political narrative from the legal. There's obviously the political narrative of my enemy's enemy is my friend and so forth and so on. But the case that Lisa made is the correct one. Article 51 of the UN Charter is a right to self-defense, and it's a right that precedes the UN Charter. The Iraqis are asking for help. They need help. We've been invited in. We're totally within our rights to do that.
As far as we're invited, is that right?
Well, actually, I think you could claim there's an interest in that they're trying to eventually export this. But there's an imminent threat to the Iraqis. As far as Syria is concerned, again, Lisa's correct that the Syrians aren't doing anything. There's an imminent threat that they're going to again attack the Iraqis. So we do have every right to go in and help the Iraqis. And we need to get rid of these people. As she said, they are as dangerous as they come, as brutal, as genocidal as they come.
George, do you believe that they are the worst we've ever seen?
Yes, I do. But even the excellent Lise Doucette struggled to explain the bizarre, perverse complexities of this situation. And the one thing she certainly didn't persuade us of is that there's any legality involved. If there was, a motion would have been placed before the Security Council and it would have had the validation of international law. As it stands, it's a self-appointed coalition of Britain, France, the United States, together with some of the unfreest dictatorships in the world, places like Saudi Arabia, who, of course, funded the proliferation of these insane extremist fanatics, heart-eating, head-chopping fanatics in the first place. It cannot be legal if it does not have the authority of the United Nations.
Or Charlie disagrees with that.
Yeah, let me correct my friend very quickly, George.
Or the government of Syria. But that's not my main opposition to it, Jeremy. My main opposition to it is that it will be entirely counterproductive. We've done all this before. We've invaded, we've bombed, we've occupied, and all it did was make this menace of fanaticism all the stronger, morphing, metamorphosing into ever more hideous forms. And that will be the main result of this Western bombardment of yet another Arab country, the seventh that Obama has bombed.
Let's move on to that
presidency.
point. Charlie, you're poking the hornet's nest with a big stick, aren't you? That's what you're doing.
Well, first off, let me correct George as far as Article 51 is concerned. You don't need UN approval because, again, while they're debating, you're being attacked. So you have the right to defend yourself at any time.
Syria's different.
Charlie, we've been here before, man.
But hold on, let me go on. Again, the political narrative you bring up, yes, there's always risks. But I don't want to see people being beheaded, women being raped. These are people that need our assistance, and I think there is a definite case here. And yes, George is right. There's a lot of hypocrisy when you're talking Saudi Arabia, but I think the Saudis and the Iranians, etc., see the danger of what's going to happen here. This is a group that is essentially a state that, unlike Al-Qaeda, is turned this into their own land. They're getting revenues. They're well-funded, and it becomes very, very dangerous. So on that alone, I think there's a case to do this.
George Galloway, if we did nothing, if the USA did nothing, how would this get better on its own?
I'm not suggesting that we do nothing. I have been for 3 long years urging something that would be productive, that would work, which is to strengthen the people who are already fighting these people and stop funding and arming the organizations that are in part now being bombed.
But that means strengthening Assad, doesn't it?
It means strengthening the governments of Iraq and Syria. Who have to face these people. We should never have been here. We're only here because Britain and the United States and France funded and armed Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups over the last 3 years.
Could we do that, Charlie? Well, could we actually say, okay, look, we know that Assad, we think he's used chemical weapons against his own people. Nobody likes him. We're now going to say to him, listen, we need to help you here.
I don't think we should be arming or helping Assad. I also don't think we should be talking to the Iranians.
Let's be realistic.
Frankly.
You said ISIS are the worst.
They are, and I think it can be handled by the Peshmerga, and I think that U.S. and British and coalition troops can take care of this job. I think what we do need need to do, and there's a lot I can agree with George on. Part of the problem is that we didn't do anything for the last 3-4 years of the Obama administration. There was a political vacuum in the area. That's what's caused the ISIL to fill this void and to establish themselves. So I think we unfortunately need to have a presence because the situation has changed. It's not what it was 3-4 years ago.
George, you don't have to look in the crystal ball. You can read the book. We've done all this before. We sent hundreds of thousands of British and American soldiers into Iraq, and look at the result. And now we're proposing to do it all over again. Charlie's against beheadings. There's a beheading in Saudi Arabia on television every single day for the last 3 months. One every single day in Saudi Arabia, which is one of the countries we're now said to be allies with.
We were allies with Stalin in World War II. So, I understand the hypocrisy of international affairs, George, but you have to deal with the problem at hand. And right now we have ISIL doing far worse. And also remember, the threat extends to here, to the United Kingdom and the United States.
Thank you very much, Charlie Wolff, American commentator and broadcaster. George Galloway, Respect MP for Bradford West, asking what